Welcome back to the channel. I want to get started today talking about disfellowshipping. That seems to be a pretty hot topic floating around YouTube, and what mostly you find is a lot of people telling their stories about the time during their disfellowshipping. I want to put a little bit of a different perspective on it because since I was never baptized, I never got disfellowshipped, but I did have a sibling who was disfellowshipped. So I want to talk a little bit about what it's like to be a child who has a sibling who's disfellowshipped. So my oldest sister is 4 years older than me, and she was actually disfellowshipped when she was 17. So I was 13. A little bit of background about my family is that we grew up in an abusive household. Our parents abused us our entire childhood. My oldest sister had the most severe abuse, I think. She experienced physical abuse that me and my other sister did not experience, but we all experienced mental and emotional abuse. So I think that children who tend to be abused tend to be the type of teenagers who become rebellious. And that was definitely true for my oldest sister. She became rebellious as she got older. And one of the things that she was rebellious about was smoking. She got pretty into smoking cigarettes when she was about 16. Now, she had been previously privately reproved for her cigarette smoking habit. For those of you who don't know, private reproof is a type of punishment that the elders give you where you're not allowed to raise your hand at the meetings and answer. You're also not allowed to give parts from the stage. And there are a few other restrictions that they put upon you. But the thing about private reproof is they don't announce from the stage that you've been privately reproved. It's really just between you and the elders to know that you've gotten in trouble. And they use that as a tactic to try and dissuade you from doing something without letting everyone know about it. So my sister had been privately reproved for smoking cigarettes. During this time period where she had been getting in trouble and becoming more rebellious, there was also a brother who had just joined our congregation who had been dating some of the girls in our congregation and had started a sexual relationship with one of them. So he was also getting pulled into meetings and getting talked to, and he did have a couple judicial committee meetings. So around this time where my sister was getting in trouble with smoking, she meets this brother who's getting in trouble with the elders, and they start dating, and they decide pretty quickly that they want to get married, and through a whole other series of events, that's a story I might talk about later, I don't know. They ended up getting engaged and married within a couple of days, and they had been dating for a few months. So my sister had her judicial committee meeting right before or right after she got married, within a week or two of being married. And my brother-in-law was also having judicial committee meetings about premarital sex. So what ended up happening was that the brothers decided that they were going to disfellowship my sister for smoking and my brother-in-law for having premarital sex with a different girl than the girl he had been dating previously to my sister. So what ended up happening was that when they decided they were going to disfellowship both my brother-in-law and my sister, they ended up announcing it from the stage at the same meeting, from the stage at the same time. And it was very disconcerting because I remember being 13 and thinking that they should have made a point to say that the disfellowshippings were unrelated. But they didn't. And then on top of that, they wanted to have kids right away, so they were trying to get pregnant. And they did get pregnant pretty quickly. Within a couple of months of getting married, they did actually get pregnant with their oldest child. And so what it seemed like to the congregation was that they had been engaging in premarital sex and that's why they got disfellowshipped. And that wasn't the case. So that really bothered a lot of people in the congregation, even though that's not what was happening. And I still to this day wonder why the elders chose to announce it that way. I don't know if it was intentional, but it sure felt intentional at the time. It seemed as though they were trying to paint my sister and my brother-in-law in a bad light. And for anyone who's not a Jehovah's Witness, rumors that spread about why people are disfellowshipped stick around for a long time. And I was even asked about probably 10 years later. It was more than 10 years after my sister had been reinstated. Before she had only been disfellowshipped for a few months. But I had sisters asking me later on how close to their marriage they had their baby. And it took a lot to bite my tongue and not be catty to those sisters that were trying to imply that my sister had gotten pregnant before they got married. It was a really unkind thing to bring up, especially so many years later. But that gives you an idea of how rumors tend to spread in the congregation. And because they're not allowed to associate with disfellowshipped individuals, they can't ask you directly because they're not allowed to talk to you. So rumors like that tend to hang on for quite some time. And I don't think that my sister ever really fully bounced back from disfellowshipping. Because I think that since the elders kind of had it out for her, the congregation never really took her in like I think they should have. So it was very difficult for me when my sister was first disfellowshipped because being only 13 and my sister being 17 and there being a sibling between us, we were all pretty close because we were within a couple of years of each other. And we did do a lot of things together. We still have a very close relationship, all three of us. And it was very weird going from spending every day, all the time with my sister, living in our house and, taking us to get ice cream and sodas and driving us around town and stuff, to not even seeing her at all, because when she got married, she moved out and then she was disfellowshipped. So I had no contact with her. I went from seeing her every day and having a really good relationship with her to not having any relationship with her. And it was very confusing and hurtful. And even though I was old enough to understand why it was happening, I found that still very difficult to live with. And I think that a lot of kids experience that. Because it's not something that kids are capable of processing completely, I think that they have a really hard time with the disfellowshipping situation. I think that it's really difficult for children to shun someone, especially a close family member. And I think that that kind of played into the fact that I never got baptized. I think that that whole scenario, the whole situation that happened, kind of led me to not want to get baptized altogether. I think it put a very sour taste in my mouth, and I don't think that at the time I was consciously associating that, I guess the trauma of my sister getting disfellowshipped with me not wanting to get baptized. But looking back, I think that that whole situation soured me on wanting to get baptized altogether. And I think that may be why I never fully committed. Because I remember thinking that it was kind of scary that if I ever wanted to do anything rebellious, that I might not be able to talk to my family ever again. And that kind of scared me. And I think that they're hoping to kind of scare you straight. But what ended up happening was that since I wasn't baptized at the time, it scared me away from wanting to get baptized altogether. And I don't think that they do that on purpose. But that's what ended up happening to me, is that the more I thought about baptism, I always thought about my sister having been disfellowshipped and for 6 or 7 months not being able to talk to her. And I remember how hard that was for me and how much that hurt my feelings. And I didn't ever want that situation to come between me and my family again, especially my sisters, because I was very close with them and I still am very close with them. And I guess subconsciously I kind of figured that if I was never baptized, I would never have the possibility of being ostracized from my family. So I think that that's kind of sad, and I kind of feel sorry for my former self, because if I was around a kid that was going through that right now, I think I would feel really deeply for them, because that's kind of a sad situation, and that's not a very good mental place to be in, to feel like your religion and your lifestyle is going to keep you from your family. And since the religion wasn't something that I had decided for myself, I was born in and raised that way. I didn't really have a choice at that point in time. You can't really stand up to your parents at 13 and tell them that you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness when every person in your family is a Jehovah's Witness. That thought doesn't even cross your mind. You assume that you're going to keep being a Jehovah's Witness because that's what you've always known. So even though I don't have firsthand experience being disfellowshipped, I did have similar experiences to disfellowship people when I first left, I think. I really expected something different from the world. I really expected it to be cold and harsh and unforgiving, because that's what we were taught. We were always told that the world is a really terrible place, and that since it's Satan's domain, everyone's under Satan's influence. And so I think I kind of expected people to be cold and heartless, and that's not really what I found. I found the world to be fairly forgiving, and I met a lot of people that were willing to treat me like family, when my own family wasn't willing to treat me like family. And a lot of the people that were there for me when I first left, the relationships that I forged in the aftermath of leaving Jehovah's Witnesses still exist to this day. And those relationships are very important to me. So that's the reason why I'm kind of hoping to be a soft landing place for any Jehovah's Witnesses that are trying to leave the organization. Because I remember what that was like, and I remember having a very difficult time not knowing where to go and what to do. But look around you. There are a lot of helpers, a lot of good-hearted, kind people. The world is definitely not as the society portrays it to be. The Watchtower Society has a lot of really negative things to say about the world because they want you to continue to be a Jehovah's Witness. I don't have any stake in the matter. If any random person wants to continue being a Jehovah's Witness, it doesn't affect my life at all. But I've been there trying to leave, and I know what it's like to feel like the world is going to be difficult. And the world is not as hard as Jehovah's Witnesses would lead you to believe. There's a lot of really good people out there. If you're willing to stick your neck out and look for people, there's lots of people willing to open their hearts and their homes to you. So if that's something that concerns you, if that's what's keeping you in, is that you're worried that the world is a cold and heartless place, it's not nearly as cold and heartless as the society portrays it. There's a lot of lovely, kind, caring people in the world, and they are not hard to find. They are not far and few, and they're not rare. There's a lot of kind people in the world. And maybe not everyone has your best interest at heart, but there are a lot of people willing to give you a chance. The world is full of opportunities, and you just need to go out and experience it. And I know it might be scary, and I know it might be hard because I've been there. But it's very easy to find good people outside of the society. It is. It's a lot easier than they let you think. So if you enjoyed this topic, please like my video. If you have any questions about something that I touched on and that maybe I need to expand on something, or you just want me to go in a different direction, or you have an idea for a video that you think might be interesting, or you just want to hear my perspective on something, please comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. Definitely, if you have any criticisms, I'm open to that. So if I'm doing something that's really terrible that I need to work on, please let me know. I'm going to try to be open-minded about the criticisms that I receive. So please let me know if I can do something different, or if I need to change something. But I'm going to be doing a lot more videos. I'm not going to delve really deeply into Jehovah's Witness society because I'm not an expert in that field, but I do want to talk about my life story, and so we will be talking a little bit about Jehovah's Witnesses policies. But there's a lot of really great resources out there if what you're interested in is knowing more about what Jehovah's Witnesses believe. There's tons and tons of resources out there. So I'm really more just trying to tell my story in case there's someone out there that might relate to it. If I can just get to a handful of people, I feel like it will have been a productive conversation. So stay tuned for my next videos. I'm going to be talking a little bit about what it's like to be a child in an abusive household, and a little bit thrown in there about what it's like to be a Jehovah's Witness. So stay tuned and keep watching for my videos, and I will see you guys next time.